Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about overdyed threads. Now, I picked up a skein of Weeks Dye Works, Crescent Colors, which is now Classic Colorworks, Gentle Art Sampler Threads, Threadworks, and DMC color variations. There are other overdyed threads out there. I just thought this would be a representative sample of how to stitch with these, and yeah. So the first thing is, if you're going to stitch a project with overdyed threads, at least this is what I do, I would suggest that you buy what you need, because just like with hand-dyed fabrics, where if you buy two pieces of the same fabric, it is not going to be exactly the same. There are different dye lots for overdyed threads, so I would make sure to get what you need for a project all at one time. Okay, let's get into learning about these threads and stitching with them so you can see what they look like. Very first one I'm going to do is now Classic Colorworks. This is an older skein when it was called Crescent Colors. The son of the Little House Needleworks designer owns this company now. This is a 6-strand floss. It comes in a 5-yard skein and has 250 colors, and on 123 Stitches website, each skein is $2.40. Now, I always wind my overdyed threads on bobbins, so what I would do, I would pull this off. Now, also, each company winds their floss differently. Like this company, if you pull it apart, I'm hoping you can see that, it is in, as I'm trying to pull it apart, it comes in, how many strands? 1, 2, you get 5 really long strands, meaning when I wind this on a bobbin, I am winding each strand. Unlike a skein of DMC that is one long continuous strand. I hope that made sense. Okay, with Classic Colorworks, what I will do is first I will cut a strand in half because they're actually really long. And then what I will do is, a good indication, at least for me, is the length. I will hold an end between my fingers like this, and then go to right where my elbow starts, and I will cut that. That is usually a pretty good length for me without getting too many tangles or knots or anything. So this is the piece of thread. It winds up being, let me see how many inches that winds up being. Obviously everyone is going to be different, but for me, that winds up being 13 inches in length. Okay. I pull out 2 strands. Thread my needle, which on 28 count fabric, I use a size 24 needle. Now you can also use, Thread Heaven or any thread conditioner. I don't use that stuff. And depending on how you're starting it, you can do a waist knot like I showed in my other video when I did the stitching on even weave, or wind them under, however you start your thread. So I complete each X as I go along when I stitch with overdyed threads, especially with classic color works. I'm going to try to stitch a block of 10 stitches so you can sort of see the variegation. With most of these, I find the classic color works, it's a subtle variation. Obviously, some of them are more variegated than others. I really like working with these threads. They have some great colors. Obviously, because her son owns the company, a lot of Little House Needleworks and Country Cottage Needleworks use these threads. As you can see, you don't see very much variegation in this color, the ribbon red. Maybe I should have picked a different color for this one. But some of the other ones I have are variegated. Okay. The next one is Weeks Dye Works. And this color is, do you pronounce that malachite? I just like this green color. Now this is somewhat variegated. You can see the different shades of green in it. Lizzie Kate likes to use Weeks Dye Works in her designs a lot, like the newest Christmas one. The whole thread palette is Weeks Dye Works. These are also 6-strand, 5-yard skeins. There are 295 colors, at least what I saw on the website. And on 123 Stitches website, these are $2.40 a skein. And when you pull these off, this is like a DMC skein. It's one long continuous thread. So I will just unwind all of this before I wind it on my bobbin. So let's get to stitching with this and see how this shows up. Now, you can also, with overdyed thread, like I said, you know, my videos or these tutorials are just what I do. I'm not saying what I do is right. It is just what I like to do. It's a personal preference. You can stitch however you want to stitch. You can also stitch overdyed threads, you know, going row by row, meaning you don't have to complete each X individually. It will just give you a more subtle variation. And I'm going to do that. I'll do that with this green. I'll stitch a little block that is completing each X. I'm going to stitch a block of 9. I'm trying to, okay. I'm going to stitch a block of 9, completing each X as I go. This is a pretty color. And sometimes I have found that you can't see the variegation until you step away from the piece. You know, as stitchers, we are so used to having the fabric and threads and stuff so close to our face that sometimes it is hard to see how it really looks once you step back. Okay, this doesn't look like there's much variegation either. I know, maybe I should have picked ones that were really variegated so you could see. The ones that I picked, I don't know. Okay, well, I'm going with it now, right? Sometimes I have found that Weeks Dye Works threads are really dry, if that makes any sense, and can be difficult to work with. This thread in particular, though, is fine. I have no issue with it. So now I'm going to stitch a block of 9 next to it, and I'm going to go row by row where I don't complete each X individually. I'm thinking we're not going to see that much of a difference. I did sign up for the Color and Cotton Floss of the Month. I have not received my first shipment yet because I just did it like 2 weeks ago, I think. Some of those threads are really beautiful, so I figured for $10 and you get 5 skeins a month. That's actually a pretty good price. I pulled my thread out of the needle, so I'm re-threading my needle at this moment. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, but this set of 9 are darker than that. So you can see a variegation in that, definitely. Still just a nice thread to work with. Okay, the next one is Gentle Art Sampler Threads. And I got Royal Purple, which does have some variegation in it. Now, Plum Street Samplers and Bent Creek like to use these threads. Other companies do too, but I know Bent Creek uses a lot of them, and so does Plum Street Samplers. It is also a 6-strand floss. It comes in 5 and 10 yard skeins. And on 123 Stitches website, it is $2.19 a skein. And they say these are subtle color changes. And they also said that you can go row by row for a more subtle look, or for a clearer variation of color, you do each X by themselves, which is what I just said. And on Gentle Art Sampler Threads website, they actually suggest, if you're going to stitch plants like tree branches, leaves, to stitch in vertical rows, meaning up and down, so it can simulate how a plant actually grows. And I thought that was an awesome tip, because I would have never thought about doing that. So when you pull off a Gentle Art Sampler Threads off the skein, just like Classic Colorworks, it is individual strands. So I would be winding each one on a bobbin. I like bobbins, they just make it easier for me to handle the threads. And 5 strands, just like before, with the Classic Colorworks. Okay, I'm going to try to find in here a spot that is variegated so I can really try to show you the variegation. Again, I'm very sorry that I did not pick more variegated colors. And I think at one point in this video, I'm actually going to go grab, I have some variegated threads from Mad Cross Stitcher when I did the review. I forgot about those. So those are really variegated, so I can definitely show you that. So pulling 2 strands out. Now one thing I never do with these, any kind of variegated thread, is use the loop method. But again, if you want to try that, you can. It'll just give you a different look. And maybe I will show you that with the DMC color variation, because that's pretty variegated too. Okay, we're going to go up here this time. I love purple. I love this purple color. This would be really great for a bat or something nighttime. Okay, that's not really showing the variegation either. Woo, okay. But Gentle Art Sampler threads, a really beautiful thread to work with. Okay, the next one I have is Threadworks, and formerly called Needle Necessities. If you remember the Stony Creek Beach piece that I did, the letters Beach Time were done with Threadworks Army Fatigue, and that was very variegated. It's a 6-strand floss. They come in 5 and 20 yard skeins. The 5 yard skeins are $2.20. The 20 yard skeins are $4.10. The colors have a number that correspond to color names. Like this one is called Blue Swirl. So now this is a 5 yard skein, I think. No, this is 20 yard skein. So when you pull it off, it is again individual strands, and for a 20 yard skein, it's quite a bit. 10 or 15 strands. So, okay, this is variegated, so I'm gonna pick a spot from the center to stitch of this so you can see the variegation. I might have to do a little bit of a bigger block than 9 to show you. Actually, no, I won't. I just need to cut the thread correctly. Threadworks threads are also beautiful threads to work with. They have some really beautiful colors. Pick out 2 strands. Well, folks, it is a Christmas miracle because you can actually see variegation in this. It goes from dark to medium to light. I hope you can see that. Let me try to turn that way. The next to last thread that I have, because like I said, I will go get some Mad Stitcher thread, is DMC Color Variations. 6-strand thread, just like DMC floss. 8.7 yard skein, $1.19. The cheapest overdyed thread that's out there. They have 60 colors. And what's unique about this thread is that every 5 to 7 stitches is a new shade. I love this shade. I don't know what the name of it is. I think it's Chilean Sunset, I think. I don't want to pick one where it's got the pink in it. Okay. I am going to complete each X as I go along. And then I'm going to do the loop method to show you the difference. So again, you pick 2, when you're not doing the loop method, you just pick 2 strands. I hope you can see the color variegation in that. It's really pretty. It goes from like a brown to a copper to a dark pink red. It is very, very pretty. So now I will do the loop method, and I will try to stitch that same block of stitches so you can see what that looks like. Okay, I just pull out one long strand, double it over for the loop method. And I had a lot of people comment that I can do the loop method on the front. I know that. I've done it before. I just prefer to do it on the back. I have leftover beads in this fabric because they keep falling every time I turn the fabric from when I did my beading video. And I spilled a whole bunch of beads. Okay, you can see by using the loop method with this thread that there really is no color change. I mean, to my eye, this looks pretty solid. Okay, I'm going to go grab a Mad Stitcher skein of floss, and I will be right back. Okay, when I was looking for Mad Stitcher floss, I also came across this Karen waterlily silk, variegated silk that I had. This is 12 ply silk and it's 6 yards. And this is the color sea glass, so I will stitch a few stitches with that as well. Silk for me, and probably for all of you too, it's a little bit more difficult to work with. It's slippery. It wants to slip right out of the needle. And a bunch of Mirabilia patterns now use water lily silk, and it gives an awesome appearance. Let me pick a spot that looked variegated. I don't know if it's going to show up very well on this fabric. It's a light green. And since it is 12 strand, it goes pretty far because, again, you're only working with 2 strands. And depending on what count fabric you use, you might be able to use 1 strand. Okay, let's stitch a little square with this, square of 9. Silk threads are very nice to touch. They're very luxurious and soft. They are also more pricey. I want to say, I did not look at it off camera, but I want to say a skein of this is $7 or $8. So can be pretty pricey if you're doing an entire project in silk, but there are also some sellers on Etsy that are reasonable that hand dye their own silk. Silks for You is one of those. You can usually get a big hank of silk for $20 or $25, I think. Okay, not too much variegation in that. It does get a tiny bit lighter as I get towards the bottom stitches, but not really a great variegation. Now, that's only a small block though. If you're stitching a big section, you are going to see variegation. Okay, the last thread that I'm going to go through is this Mad Stitcher Cake Sprinkles floss. Look at those colors. It's a 6-strand floss, 9 yards on a skein. And I am not sure how much these are to purchase on her website, but I will link them down below in the description box. And definitely going to see some variegation when I stitch with this because, first of all, there's a bunch of colors. And yeah. Let me try to get a good representation here. And this is pretty. May have to stitch quite a big block to show you, but I will do that for science. The best piece of advice that I can give about needlework, just in general, is to have fun with it. This is supposed to be a fun hobby. It's not a job. Don't be afraid to try even weave if you're an Ada stitcher, or try beading, or try working with overdyed threads. The worst thing that can happen is that you don't like it and then you just tear it out, or you mess up and you tear it out. That's all part of learning. I remember when I first started stitching on even weave, my first project was Mirabilia's Fairy Moon. I actually had the lady in the store show me how to stitch on even weave because I just could not understand it. And I completed Fairy Moon, and that was my first time beading as well. Just a whole bunch of firsts in that project. And that project turned out amazing. And now I can't imagine not doing any of those techniques. Okay, where are we going to go with this? I'm going to go up here. Okay, as you can see, that thread is highly variegated. A lot of color changes just in that little square. I hope this helped. I've really been trying to do some different videos lately with showing different things and different techniques. I actually have a video coming up that is going to show different types of fabric and counts and things like that. And then someone also requested me to do a fabric show and tell of my hand-dyed fabrics by Stephanie Fabric. So that's going to be upcoming at some point. And I'm also going to do one for Fiberlicious, because I know that I show my fabric in my weekly updates, but to see all of them all at once, I think would be really great. So stay tuned for those. As always, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in my next video.